Aloha Rotary members, it's Marlene coming from my house. Hopefully you're all watching from the comfort of your homes because that's where you're all supposed to be. I'm sorry we couldn't all be together and this presentation couldn't be in person, but we're all doing what we need to do during this time to keep each other safe. Dr. Walter Dudley, who's the co-founder of the Pacific Tsunami Museum, has prepared a short narrated PowerPoint for you, which mainly focuses on the 1960 tsunami which devastated Hilo. This May 23rd will mark the 60th anniversary of that tsunami. But before you view that, I just wanted to remind you that April is Tsunami Awareness Month in Hawaii. And even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, we can still have a tsunami. And we almost did a couple of weeks ago. I was actually surprised with the amount of calls and texts that I received. People were asking, what do I do? What happens after a watch? And am I in a tsunami zone? This clearly demonstrated to me that people still don't know how to prepare for a tsunami, and this reaffirmed our important mission of saving lives through tsunami education and awareness. Now, there are some things that you can do now to prepare for a tsunami. Sign up for text alerts on your cell phone. Find out if you are in a tsunami zone. Check your home, where you work, and really any place where you spend a lot of time. And I'll show you how you can easily do that on the next slide. Have a plan. Make a plan with your family and figure out how you're going to communicate in case of an emergency. Know your child's school evacuation plan. Plan and practice your evacuation route. And designate a post-disaster meeting place. Now I'm going to demonstrate how you can find out if you are in a tsunami zone. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use the museum's address. So go to the Pacific Tsunami Museum's website. Very easy to remember, tsunami.org. And then click on the Safety tab. Scroll down to Are you in a tsunami evacuation zone? Then click on the Tsunami Map Viewer. Type in your address. And then we will see here that, yes, the museum is in a tsunami zone. If a tsunami is a distant generated one, you will have some time to evacuate. The amount of time you have depends on where the tsunami is generated from. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is very good in predicting the time the first wave will arrive, as well as the wave heights. This time map also demonstrates the approximate arrival time of a tsunami. For example, the earthquake that occurred in the Kuril Islands, pictured here, on March 24 at around 5 p.m. The warning center predicted that the tsunami would arrive close to 11. And if you count the rings, that's about 6 hours. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You will also know a tsunami is coming because the sirens will sound. Make sure you tune into your TV or radio, or hopefully you've signed up to get text alerts on your phone. If it is a locally generated tsunami, you may only have minutes to evacuate. If you are near the ocean, evacuate as soon as possible by going inland and uphill. Do not wait for a siren. Now, since we're not doing a presentation in person and you don't have the opportunity for a Q&A, if you have any question, please email me at the address below, director@tsunami.org, and we'll do our best to answer your question. So stay tuned for Dr. Dudley's presentation. And remember to stay home and stay safe. And remember also, we recovered from 2 really devastating tsunamis. The people of Hilo have demonstrated that we are strong and resilient. We will survive this current crisis too. Aloha.
May 23rd is an interesting day in history. Some good things happened on that date. In 1785, Ben Franklin invented bifocals. In 1934, the famous outlaws Bonnie and Clyde were ambushed and gunned down by police. In 1998, Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland signed a peace accord. But it is also a date in history when terrible things happened. On May 23rd in the year 1430, Joan of Arc was captured and then sold to the English to be burned at the stake. And for the people of Hilo, May 23rd will always be remembered as a tragic date when 61 people lost their lives. Some of you may have lost loved ones, family, friends, and neighbors. The tsunami was not as deadly as 1946, but even more tragic because there was a warning system. No one should have been caught unaware. Why did this happen? Well, following the disastrous 1946 tsunami, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center was established in 1948 to provide warning of impending tsunamis. It provided a warning of the 1952 tsunami from the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, and for the 1957 tsunami from Alaska. But damage was relatively minor and no one was killed, so people began to feel that tsunamis really weren't that dangerous. And there were a number of other tsunami warnings where the tsunami waves were actually very small and were seen by many people as false alarms. The stage was now set for the tragedy of May 23, 1960, when the largest earthquake ever recorded in history, a huge 9.2 magnitude quake, struck Chile. But that was part of the problem. We hadn't had a deadly tsunami from Chile since 1877, and no one was alive that remembered that one. And the timing of the tsunami was also part of the problem. It was due to arrive around midnight, so people who might have evacuated during the day chose to stay at home and others to go down to watch. You can recognize Suisan. Here you see the police on the bridge with curious onlookers watching the first tsunami wave. One of these was Officer Charlie Rose. Lucky for him, his shift ended at 11 p.m. and he was safely gone before the biggest waves struck. Here you see the Walton brothers holding the boat and showing off the fish. This is the withdrawal before the deadly third wave struck. They both survived, though with amazing good luck. We all know what a tragedy this was. It's not live and learn, but learn and live. We need to learn from our past mistakes. Every year that goes by increases the chances of another deadly tsunami striking our islands. Why have the odds increased for a deadly tsunami here in Hawaii? There are several reasons for this, some created by the forces of nature and others the results of man. We'll start with Mother Nature. Seismic gaps. These are areas that are normally seismically active but have not had stress-relieving earthquakes. It's just a matter of time before they go off. The Cascadia subduction zone lying just 50 miles offshore of Oregon, Washington, and southern British Columbia. Studies showed that the average time between big quakes there is about 270 years. The last big earthquake there was in 1700, 320 years ago. Acapulco sits in a seismic gap that hasn't had a significant earthquake in over a century and has been described as a tectonic time bomb waiting to go off. And then there's Alaska. There are 3 gaps there which have had no large earthquakes in the past century, one of which is off the Shumagon Islands and would send tsunami waves directly toward Hawaii. You'll notice that it's right next to the epicenter of the 1946 earthquake that generated the tsunami that killed 159 people here in Hawaii. And as if that weren't enough, another aspect of the Lucky You Live Hawaii is that not only do we have active volcanoes pouring out lava, but also our own earthquakes that can generate local tsunamis like that of 1975 at Halape. Dr. Mitchell, a Hilo physician and scoutmaster, seen here fourth from the left in the photograph, was killed along with a fisherman from Mountain View, Michael Cruz. It's not just local earthquakes, but giant landslides that also cause huge local tsunamis. In fact, everywhere in the islands that you see a steep pali, there has already been a large landslide or one is getting ready to happen. One of the most studied is the Alika slide that occurred about 100,000 years ago. You see here off of South Kona. And here you see the heights in meters of coral deposits that are washed up on the shore by that huge tsunami generated by the Alika slide. If you've ever driven down the road from Lanai City to Manele Bay, you would have passed this strange-looking road cut. The white rocks are coral, 1,000 feet above sea level. When do these large landslides usually occur? During times of rising sea level, like right now. Okay, time for some good news. False alarms are now a thing of the past thanks to a much improved tsunami warning system called the DART system for Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunamis. Here's how the DART buoys work. The buoy floats at the surface, and on the seafloor is a pressure sensor. It records tsunami waves passing overhead, then sends a message to the surface buoy, which then sends it to a satellite, which then immediately sends it down to the warning centers. Here you can see the location of DART buoys around the world. One thing is certain, once the tsunami waves get to the DART buoys, a tsunami watch will either be canceled or a tsunami warning will be declared. There are no longer false alarms. And this graph shows just how much the warning system, just how much it's improved in the time it takes since the beginning of the DART system in the early 90s up to 2004. They've gone from taking over an hour to respond to less than 10 minutes now. On the downside, the Trump administration has proposed completely eliminating the DART system as part of a 56% cut to the tsunami warning program. Maybe when a tsunami strikes Mar-a-Lago, they'll change their mind. At any rate, we currently have a very good tsunami warning system. What we're lacking is adequate education and training. People still don't treat tsunami warnings as seriously as they should, and some even treat them like a joke and go down to watch. I've seen the firsthand benefits of tsunami education and training in the schools, and let's listen while a government official in American Samoa tells you what happened there in 2000.
And Homeland Security training through our local director, Mike Salah, about 3 months ago, actually saved my life. It was that training that educated me about tsunami. The village of Nuansekanga, which actually was about the fourth village from where actually I was at. We noticed there was no kids in front of that school. We found out later because they had training on a Friday before. You know, they had tsunami training in that school, and it saved that school. And probably around 800, 900 kids in that school. There was no kids around. They were all in the back of the school heading up the mountain. And thank God those teachers, you know, knew what they were doing. Or else we would have, and it's one of the villages that was torn up.
We've been lucky so far here in Hawaii, but you have to remember it's not if, but when the next tsunami strikes. And we must be ready if we don't want to repeat the tragedy of 1960. Let us not forget. Let us remember those lost and not let it happen again. Mahalo.